The Christmas season is approaching, and in order to keep up with the times, the leaders of Jehovah's Witnesses have released a new video where they claim that celebrating Christmas offends God. Yes, using those exact words. This time, we're going to look at the Witnesses' new video through critical thinking and plain common sense. Let me tell you in advance, this will be a perfect example of how, even starting with accurate information, the Witnesses' leaders manage to reach the wrong conclusions. So wrong that they end up contradicting themselves. Ready? Next, I'm going to play the Witnesses' video and comment on it as we reach the key moments.
For many people, Christmas is a special time of year, a time for family and a time for celebration. But even though many view Christmas as a celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ, did you know that his early followers didn't celebrate his birthday? And neither the word Christmas nor even the notion of celebrating Christ's birthday appears in the Bible.
We're already starting off with inconsistencies. It's true that the word Christmas doesn't appear in the Bible, but the term governing body doesn't appear in the Bible either, and it's a key point in their theology. Neither do terms like pioneer, circuit overseer, kingdom hall, watchtower study, God's organization, and so on. So when it suits them, it suddenly matters that a word isn't found in the Bible, but they have no problem inventing terms that serve their own purposes and practices. Let's keep going with the video.
So where did Christmas come from? Consider the following facts. The modern celebration, which varies depending on the region, is evidently a mix of pagan customs and superstitions. In Europe, ancient peoples such as the Celts believed that longer winter nights meant that the sun had stopped moving. So they lit logs to persuade the sun to move again. They also decorated their homes with evergreens, believing these would protect their families from evil. These pagan practices began centuries before Christ and have survived in the form of the modern-day Christmas tree and other decorations.
I wonder how many people celebrate Christmas to convince the sun to start moving again. I mean, it's no coincidence that both Christmas and New Year's fall so close to the winter solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. This event, marked by the longest night of the year, signals the start of winter. However, people who celebrate Christmas today aren't doing it to convince the sun to move again. In fact, many people celebrate Christmas in the Southern Hemisphere, where the opposite phenomenon takes place at that time, the arrival of summer. This matters because, as we'll see later on, Jehovah's Witnesses themselves also maintain customs that had pagan origins, but whose meanings have changed over time. For now, let's continue with the video.
The Bible does not give a date for Jesus' birth. It does mention that shepherds were tending their flocks outdoors on the night he was born, something that they did not do during the cold winter.
I don't know of any religious leader who is even remotely serious who would claim that Jesus was born in December. So why do they celebrate it on that date? Well, it turns out there's an anthropological phenomenon from which no society or religion, not even Jehovah's Witnesses, is exempt. It's known as syncretism. In just a moment, the meaning of this term will become clear.
So why is Jesus' birthday celebrated in December? The ancient Romans held a winter feast in honor of their god of agriculture, Saturn. After more than a week of gift-giving and drunken feasts, the celebration ended on December 25th, the birthday of the sun god Mithra. Hundreds of years after Jesus' death, in the 4th century, church leaders adopted this ancient Roman festival as the birth date of Jesus, blending pagan worship with Christianity.
In this section, the leaders of Jehovah's Witnesses demonize the syncretism that exists in the origins of Christmas. However, syncretism is a well-documented phenomenon in anthropology, a cultural process through which two or more traditions, beliefs, or symbols are combined, reinterpreted, or blended to create new meaningful forms within a social group. From this perspective, syncretism isn't a simple mechanical mixture, but rather a creative adaptation that emerges in contexts where cultures come into contact, such as colonization, migration, or evangelization, and reflects humanity's ability to negotiate identity, resistance, and cultural continuity. Processes like these have been present in the development of virtually every known historical religion, and the movement of Jehovah's Witnesses is no exception. Its origins combine elements of Restorationist Protestantism, 19th century apocalyptic currents, and organizational models drawn from American corporate culture.
What about Santa Claus? He represents a mix of fictional characters who rode through the sky, rewarding good children with gifts and sweets, and harshly punishing those who misbehaved. In the early 1900s, advertisers began using Santa Claus to promote holiday shopping. Since then, Christmas has become one of the most profitable times of the year for business.
Personally, I'm not a fan of how materialism shows up in the end-of-year holidays either. But the point here is that just as businesses look for ways to take people's money, Jehovah's Witnesses do the same. Those of us who know the system from the inside understand that the so-called voluntary donations are a myth. The organization constantly pressures congregation elders to cover the costs of literature, assemblies, and Kingdom Hall construction. No one had to tell me this. I lived it. And let's be honest, their ambitious projects, like the Ramapo recording studios, aren't funded simply because everyone gives whatever they want. Let's continue.
Of course, many people celebrate Christmas simply to enjoy time with loved ones, enjoy good food, and exchange gifts. This may all seem like harmless fun.
Of course, getting together with your so-called worldly family is extremely dangerous because the more isolated they can keep you, the better. It's no coincidence they hammer on that phrase. Bad associations spoil useful habits. And of course, bad associations include your own family members who aren't Jehovah's Witnesses. But what can you expect? One of the defining traits of any respectable sect is isolating you from your surroundings. But let's pay attention now, because the next segment contains the key to our topic.
As we have seen, Christmas customs are rooted in non-Christian worship. Do those origins really matter? How do God and Jesus feel? Jesus himself said that God wants us to worship the Father with truth. Consider, could a holiday with customs that originate in false worship be compatible with true worship?
The video asks, do you think a custom with pagan origins could be compatible with true worship? I'll divide my response into two parts. To begin with, it's not correct to say that Christmas originated from paganism. The accurate statement is that pagan customs were syncretized with Christian thought. And no, that's not the same thing. Let's use a corporate metaphor to illustrate this. Suppose a company has surplus capital and uses that money to create a new business related to its own field. In that case, we would say the second company originated from the first. This would be very different from two existing companies entering negotiations to merge their capital and form a new company. In that situation, we would not say the new company originated from the first one, because both companies already existed before the merger process began. In that scenario, we say the companies merged. It's the same with Christmas. It does not originate from paganism. Rather, it emerged from a process of fusion. In this case, the correct term is syncretism, between pagan customs and Christian thought. Second point, the anonymous creators of the video never mentioned that they also have practices that come from syncretism. For example, many married Jehovah's Witnesses, including members of the governing body, wear wedding rings. Our earliest knowledge of wedding rings comes from ancient Egypt, where they symbolized entering a state of protection and eternity under Ma'at, the divine order. But today, they simply symbolize marital union. In other words, the use of wedding rings is a practice of Egyptian origin that, through the process of syncretism with other cultures, acquired new meanings and survived to the present day. Exactly what happened with Christmas. So the logical question is, why are wedding rings acceptable, but Christmas isn't? But we don't even need to look that far. As recently as early 2025, Jehovah's Witnesses were still forbidden from making toasts because the roots of that tradition lie in paganism. In ancient times, people believed that clinking glasses would ward off evil spirits. Yet this year, their leaders removed the prohibition. And under what justification? under the justification that nowadays no one thinks about warding off spirits when they raise a toast. It's simply an expression of camaraderie. In other words, the custom of toasting originated in paganism, and through syncretism with other cultures, it gained new meanings and survived to the present day, just like Christmas. So why is toasting acceptable, but Christmas isn't? Why does the pagan origin, syncretized and transformed through cultural contact, matter for some customs and not for others? But let's not overcomplicate things. The issue is quite simple. The rules of Jehovah's Witnesses are created and removed according to the preferences of whoever happens to hold power at the moment. They are arbitrary rules made by men. There is no divine guidance involved. Let's watch the final part of the Witness Leader's video.
Millions who were led to believe that Christmas is a harmless holiday have learned the truth about it and have decided not to celebrate Christmas. Throughout the year, they still gather with their family, enjoy good food, and give gifts without any worry that they are offending God.
Do you really think the creator of the universe gets offended by things so absurd? By customs whose original meanings were lost centuries ago? The leaders of Jehovah's Witnesses should be far more concerned with addressing the abuses that take place within their congregations. They should be worried about apologizing to the victims instead of re-victimizing them by claiming it's all just slander from the media. They should sincerely study why 2/3 of the young people born into this religion leave it as adults. Why so many witnesses struggle with depression and burnout. From my wicked agnosticism, I can only assume those are the things that would truly offend the creator of the universe. Let me ask you something. Do you want this content to reach more and more people who need it? It's really simple, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Just hit subscribe, turn on a notification bell, leave a like, and share this video with anyone you think it could help. Thank you for being part of this project. See you soon.